So, even as a child, I've always been interested in tree houses. I've loved looking at them, spending time in them with nature, and imagining building elaborate designed tree houses. In my childhood, my father built me a tree house in our original home in Atlanta. It was a small tree house, but it had a cool screened-in area and a small back room with a cool rope ladder to get up into it. I always enjoyed playing in it and envisioned building one for myself and my kids one day. Later, as a teenager, we moved into a new home, and a friend and I built a crazy treehouse reaching over 30 feet off the ground with 3 different platform levels. However, my treehouse building skills were not on par yet, and the unsightly treehouse was required to be removed after only a short life in the backyard trees. Now, being a little bit older with kids of my own, I had told them about my dream of having a treehouse, and they instinctively started drawing me cute pictures of treehouses and asking me when they would get one of their own. At the time, we lived in a neighborhood with HOA covenants that wouldn't allow us to have a treehouse. So when we recently moved into a new subdivision that didn't have a restricted covenant in that way, I was amazed to find out that we had some perfect trees that I could finally build the treehouse dream that I had been picturing for all these years. Admittedly, I'd not come up with the design at this point, but I knew I had to. Since I'd been watching the Treehouse Masters show on TV and pulling from my years of childhood daydreaming about designs, I was uniquely driven to build a treehouse that was a next-level creation, something truly unique. It wasn't just a small, simple platform in the trees, but something that was a true hangout for the family and friends when they wanted to come over and hang out and really be able to have an outdoor space that we could enjoy year-round with the kids, family, and friends. So I worked to put together my plans by creating my scale drawings, which I ultimately sent off to the Treehouse Masters team for a bit of verification and design assistance. For the hardest part of the process, which was installing the large mounting tabs in the trees and setting up the foundation system for the treehouse. The underlying supports at the bottom of the treehouse took me nearly a year to complete, seeing that I can only work on this project on the weekends, maybe 1 or 2 days a week at most. At this phase, the building materials I was working with solo to create the treehouse foundation were massive. Custom cut 8 by 12 by 8 foot beams and triple stacked pressure treated 2 by 12 by 16s. So these were items that I could barely move around the job site by myself. It was critical for me to have the right pulley system installed to be able to work with and lift these huge items. Luckily, I had recently met just the right people to help me. Some local firefighter friends, thank you very much, came and helped me install a triple pulley system hung high in the center tree over the job site in order to provide the lifting power that I needed to get the job done. After spending a large amount of time working on the initial framework and getting the joists in place, it was a true joy to finally move on to putting some of the flooring in place and being able to move on to the railings and assembling the walls. My wife had been pivotal in coming up with our initial design by suggesting we needed to have a round section or a castle turret of some kind, and some large windows to take in nature. So we designed a large 6-foot diameter, 19-foot tall castle tower, and on the creek side of the house featured a 11-foot tall window wall full of windows to bring in natural light. The windows, of course, pop out to be able to hear the small creek running only 15 feet below. As I continued to work on the individual sections, the vision for the treehouse was finally coming together. Getting to put up the walls and move on to the rafters made of reclaimed beams was really an exciting part of the treehouse build. I was in a unique position to have some materials donated from a family member that came from an original Boy Scout campground store in North Georgia. So the floorboards and ceiling boards used on the project were actually from the camp store that was built in the early 1900s and were reclaimed only a few years ago. The beautiful beams for the roof of the treehouse came from the same salvaged property and helped create a really unique look that really complements the design. As I continued to construct the treehouse, this solo project, having only a couple people come on a few select days to help me with very specific parts that needed an extra set of hands, I focused on using as many reclaimed materials as possible to add to the unique story of the build. So I have also used several other pieces of material reclaimed from our property itself. The siding boards used on the treehouse were cut from pine trees removed from the property. I found a local sawyer with a mobile sawmill to come on site to the property and help me cut these boards to my own specifications. They were dried here on site and used to make the board and batten siding for the sides of the treehouse. Also, several of the stained glass windows used in the treehouse were reclaimed from the front door on the property, and used in the main room as well as the castle turret. For the main window wall, I got the kids involved and we went to a local thrift store together to pick out all of the windows to make up the full window wall of the CreekHouse facing out into the woods. One of the next and most exciting parts of the project was getting to build the spiral staircase. A really unique piece, I wanted to make it a standout, and even though the advice from the Treehouse masters was not to attempt such a feat, as it is rarely pulled off correctly and can be very complicated, I knew it was the right look for the Treehouse design. Matching the diameter of the castle turret, it really just set it off and made the whole design look cohesive. I started by reclaiming a 35-foot section of a treetop nearby and planting it firmly in the ground in the exact right location to be the center post for the spiral staircase. It was quite a process to manually remove all the bark from the tree and dig the perfect deep hole in the right spot so close to all the important treehouse trees without damaging the all-important root system. Then I contacted my new Sawyer friend to come back out and cut some custom slab boards for the perfect wedge stairs for the staircase. Basing my design on a single photo I found online, I think the rest of the stair build turned out amazing and really sets off the overall look of the treehouse as you approach over the creek. So when designing the castle turret on the treehouse, one of the most unique pieces was coming up with the conical shaped roof design. I wanted an iconic design reminiscent of a medieval castle, which comes out to look a little bit like a witch's hat, which is perfect for what I was going for. I really wanted an area of this treehouse to have a cool ladder and a lookout spot for the kids to go up with their binoculars, with their bow and arrow, and pretend they were kings of the world looking down over all the forest people. At the top of the treehouse turret, you're over 26 feet off the ground. It's quite a vantage point from the top, so as somebody that's not on ladders all the time, it was a bit nervous to think about getting up there on top of the roof to build this section. So to prevent the need to be that high off the ground, I first pre-built the framework from inside the castle turret. Then I attached the entire framework to my pulley system and lowered it back onto the deck 16 feet below. There, I completed adding the plywood, the weather wrapping, and the cedar shingles while standing on the deck of the treehouse in order to not be 30 feet off the ground while working. Once the roofing was complete and looking good, I used my 3-ton chain hoist and pulley system to slowly and carefully lift the roof section, now complete, back 16 feet higher to the top of the castle turret and reattach it back to its original location. It felt great to have this most important, challenging piece of the treehouse finally complete. Having finally gotten the treehouse dried in and the skylights installed on the roof, the pop-out windows installed on the CreekHouse side, the reclaimed door from the original house, the stained glass windows and side lights, and even the pineapple door knocker from the original front door on the property. It is truly a unique experience to walk into this space and have the sun come into the stained glass windows as you hang out inside and enjoy the afternoon listening to the breeze. So I have made great progress on this project, and the family is finally able to hang out in the space and enjoy the fruits of all the countless hours it has taken to get to this point. However, I'm not done yet. Next, I will be working to finish out the interior to make it even cooler. I'll be adding RGB tunable white LED lights to the room. I will also be adding some new fully color tunable landscape lights to highlight the outdoor space as you walk up to the treehouse. I also have some cool plans for adding some moving live plant shelves to help bring more of nature inside the treehouse itself. As we have begun to hang out and use the treehouse, we also needed to come up with an official name for it. So after much deliberation with the family, we have finally landed on the CreekHouse as the official name. It combines the best two aspects of the project, being the amazing creek it's hanging over and the fact that it's a treehouse. So please be sure to like and subscribe to our video here so that you can be sure to stay up to date on the new additions to this project and other cool things I'll be working on next.